Hi, and thank you for clicking on this video. My name is Furk, aka Phil. I'm a hobbyist photographer who has a sweet spot for retro style cameras, film cameras, but also for small, compact, fixed lens cameras. And originally I wanted to edit today my GFX 100RF video, since I was able to have it a few days on loan and test it out. But after watching Brian's video today, check his video up here. I also did have some thoughts about this Mark III release, and after seeing his video and also having these preferences about small compact cameras, I just wanted to add some of my thoughts about this topic. And as I said in the beginning, I'm a big fan of small compact cameras such as the Ricoh GR lineup. This one is the Ricoh GR1, so not the latest, but still a very great camera. In the past I also owned the X100VI, and I'm been back and forth with the Leica Q lineup. This is the original Leica Q1. If you are a follower of this channel, you know that I had the Q3 in the past. More about the Leica Q lineup in general and my thoughts about that in a future video. But based on these purchases I did or still have, the cameras of small compact cameras, I was really intrigued about the Sony RX1R III, because it's been 10 years, almost 10 years now, since Sony has released the RX1 Mark II or R Mark II. Since then, specifically the past 3 or 4 years, especially on social media, there was a high demand for successor of that camera, because it was at that time the smallest compact full frame camera with a fast aperture lens, the 35 f2 size lens, which is also here in the Mark III. And specifically because of the X100 lineup and the rise of demand of the X100 lineup, plus followed by the Leica Q popularity also on social media and here on YouTube, more and more voices have been raised regarding a Mark III from Sony. And now that we have that release, there's a lot of controversial debates, opinions and so on, since that press release has been released yesterday. And I want to dive in some of these topics, but also, in my opinion, it's almost a brilliant move from Sony to release that specific Mark III how it is today. And it's brilliant marketing, but not necessarily good for the consumer. And let me explain why. The first big topic and discussion point is, of course, the price of the Sony RX1R Mark III. And the reason is because it's priced at $5,100, and in Europe, here in Germany at least, it's 4,900 euros, so quite a high price tag. And this throws that Mark III camera directly in the ballpark of the Leica Q3, which I think Sony might have also made similar comparisons themselves. But of course, yeah, that's the price segment of the Leica Q lineup, currently the Leica Q3. For Fuji, there's also the GFX 100RF, which is also around the $5,000 mark. The first thing what I hear right now a lot in these kind of videos about this Mark III release is that most of the people don't get the point why you should pay that much money for a fixed lens camera just to have a relatively small compact size. Yeah, that's a valid point. But if you're someone who thinks that way, you're ultimately out of the target audience. Because as soon you have that thought that this camera is overpriced, Sony has a solution for that, and I will come to that later. To understand a little bit about that, I basically stole a piece of paper and some pens from my kids just to illustrate that. Sorry, I'm a little bit old school to demonstrate that. Some of you might know this. This is a graph of the diminishing returns, and this specific graph will help you to slightly understand perhaps these kinds of types of cameras say Leica Q lineup, or Leica in general, the X100 lineup, and this RX Mark III release, specifically talking about fixed lens cameras. Basically, you have on the Y-axis, it's the image quality. On the X-axis, you have your input, your money you put in. You would expect that the more money you put into something by investing into a camera, the more you get out of image quality. And at a certain point, that's basically the beginning of the graph. That's also the case if you're starting with let's say a cheap point and shoot camera, which is just around a few $100s. You will get that kind of image quality, but as soon you spend a lot of more money, let's say for a full frame camera setup from Sony, like a Sony A7 IV, for example, you might land about this one. So for every dollar you spend, you get quite a lot of image quality as an output. But at some point you will reach the point of diminishing returns, and I just point this as a point of DR, and that basically means that at that point the money you put into the camera, you don't get that much image quality for your buck, so to say. This graph basically slows down regarding growth, and the more you get up, you get only a little bit more image quality, but yeah, I will come to that later. And you have to pay a much more to get a little bit more of image quality. And here in the camera world, I would say that after passing that point of diminishing return, you are not necessarily paying for your image quality, but you are paying for your preferences. And in context of these cameras, it's specifically the compact size, and also now again your preferences. To understand that, I basically listed here now USPs, the unique selling points for the following cameras. That's basically you could say the money what you are paying to after passing the point of diminishing returns. For the RX100 lineup in general, I would say that you are paying for the retro style camera with the dials and so on, but also in the world of Fujifilm, you are paying to get these popular film simulations from Fujifilm and the ability to customize your recipes. Of course, in the ecosystem of Fujifilm, you can also do that with other camera bodies, but in the form factor of the X100 lineup, that's quite a unique selling point. If you look now at the Leica Q lineup, like this Q1, you are basically paying for the luxury build quality made in Germany. You are also paying, compared to the X100 lineup, for the full frame sensor, and of course for this awesome Summilux 28mm lens, 1.7 aperture. People say that this lens is best in class regarding fixed camera lenses, which I do agree in my opinion. But also keep in mind, this lens was, or this camera, the Q1, was released in 2013. So it's also quite old compared to the age, you could say, because the Q3 also have this same lens. I'm just mentioning that because a lot of people are kind of mad that Sony put in the same lens from the previous camera into the Mark III. If you now also throw in a unique selling point for another Fujifilm camera, that would be the GFX 100 RF. And as I mentioned, I had that camera for a few days and was planning to edit that video, but I think I will finalize that after this video, and I will share you my opinions about that camera when I had it for a few days. And that camera also has, of course, has its own unique selling point by being a compact medium format camera, and of course, being medium format and also quite modern, it has that 100 megapixel sensor, and that of course is a unique selling point. Now, if you look at the RX1R III, compared to the other cameras, it also has its unique selling point, in my opinion at least. And that's being, first of all, the compact size compared to all the other cameras. It's the most compact camera with a full-frame sensor. And with that, it also has the class-leading autofocus. Now, there are some opinions that because of the old size lens, the autofocus might be not as fast as current Sony cameras. But I think that we will see when the first review units has been sent and all your popular YouTubers have their hands on it. So let's see how they will compare to the modern Sony cameras. But I think that compared to all the cameras I just mentioned, the Sony will still be better regarding autofocus, because if you have ever used a Q camera or the Fujifilm camera, the autofocus is not that great, to be honest. Specifically the Leica Q. With the Q3 release, I was quite disappointed because it was quite jumping around when you have multiple objects. The GFX 100RF surprisingly has great autofocus. It's still not Sony level, but very nice. But if you want to have that class-leading autofocus, that's a Sony camera. And this RX1R III provides that. And now returning to this graph again, it's basically all the unique selling points I just told you. That's basically this area where you paying extra to get these unique selling points. If you're someone who's saying camera XYZ is overpriced, you are probably not the target audience, because you don't have these kind of preferences and you are moving around before the zone of diminishing returns. That's in this area. And if you are looking for specific preferences like the unique selling points I just mentioned, you are probably in this zone where you are willing to pay extra to get these small unique selling points which match with your preferences. And I believe that this RX1R III does have an audience, but the sales number will show if that audience is that big or not. Because of diminishing returns is at least my interpretation for this RX1R lineup in general, and regarding the price tag of this Mark III, of course. But if you look at the past of the RX1 price tags from the past, you will see that this lineup was always high price compared to the other cameras from Sony. And just to have another look regarding the price, besides of the cost of diminishing returns I just mentioned to pay for the unique selling point, I have here also researched a little bit regarding past prices of the X100 lineup, the Q lineup, and also the RX1 lineup regarding the release prices of previous models. And I just wanted to check how much the price increase has been after the successor has been released for each camera model. And that's I think also pays a little bit in regarding inflation and so on. If you look at this table, you see that the Fujifilm releases have relatively small increments, but still there was at some point always a price increase, specifically from the Mark IV to the Mark V or X100V, and then from the X100VI or V to the 6, there was also quite a big price increase. And here I remember that a lot of people has been also complaining why that price tag has been increased. But if you're a company and you know people will buy your stuff anyway, they will try to maximize their margin, of course. You see that also for the Leica Q, there was always a price increase after each iteration. And looking at the time gaps, you could say, specifically for the Leica Q lineup, they were always released after 4 years. That, of course, includes the inflation and so on. And if you now look at the RX1 Mark III, there's a whopping yeah, 35% price increase compared to the Mark II. It looks that dramatically because of the tariffs in the US, but I did the same calculation also for EU prices or in euro, and here you still have a price increase of 30% compared to the Mark II. But here you have to also set in context that between the Mark II and the Mark III, you have almost 10 years of time gap. And compared to the Fujifilm X100VI and the X100VI, you only have 4 years, and also the same for the Q lineup. So in total, it's relatively reasonable. Question mark. If you look at the time gap and so on, you might say it's kind of okay-ish if the price of the US without tariffs, I think it would be 4,600 and 700, something like that, and it would be still a high price tag compared to other cameras in the same category. There was also a price increase in between generations. This is just something I just observed. Tell me in the comments below what your opinion about that. Now talking about the price again, I want to share my thoughts with you why, in my opinion, this Mark III release from Sony is somehow brilliant from the marketing, and why it's not that consumer friendly, you could say. But either way, I think it's kind of a win-win situation for Sony only. And let me explain here in this part of the video in more details why. Mark II has been released almost 10 years ago. In the past 2, 3, 4 years, there's a popularity rising regarding high-end compact cameras. I'm one of the target audience. I'm a sucker for these kind of cameras, besides retro style cameras. And I believe all these Sony YouTubers who are using Sony cameras, go on Sony condos and so on, I think they have nagged about a release of the Mark III every time they saw a Sony rep or something like that. And Sony was aware about the demand, I believe. But I also think that Sony didn't have big interest to reignite the RX lineup. This is basically just my theory, but if I would run a company, it would make sense to me. And the reason why I would not or would like to let the RX1 lineup die is because of the ecosystem Sony has now able to build and hold and extend. What do I mean by that? Let's say you are one of these persons who are saying, this camera, the Mark III, is BS, it's overpriced. Basically a Sony A7CR in a more compact size, but with the limitation of a fixed lens, and you are not able to change lenses because it has a fixed lens. Well, Sony has a solution for that in the lineup. That is the Sony A7CR, and you are able to change lenses. It has the same sensor with a little bigger body, but you are able to change lenses. For all these people who are thinking that, that's the solution Sony offers you. And I believe that Sony also prefers customers going that route. Why? Because Sony would be able to pull in at least 2 margins in. First, by selling you the camera, and second of all, a lens. Compared to the RX1, they would only profit from you once. Now you could say that if you're buying Sony camera, you are not able to purchase Sony lenses because they are expensive. If you're looking at the GM lineup, the G Master lineup, and you go for the, for example, Tamron or Sigma. So yeah, that's valid, but believe what? Tamron is, I think Sony is holding 17% of the shares. So it's basically, Sony is the biggest stockholder from Tamron. So there's kind of something where Sony is profiting. I'm not sure how Sony is profiting with Sigma regarding sharing the Sony E-mount lens, but I believe there's also some kind of stuff going on. Also, just my observation or my thinking is, even if you start with Tamron lens or a Sigma lens, you will luster sooner or later for a Sony G Master lens, and that's the point where Sony has you in their ecosystem. So that's basically for these people who are not considering the RX1 camera, in my opinion at least. And again, if they go the other route of their traditional cameras from Sony, that's where Sony is able to profit multiple times through camera purchases, through lens upgrades and body upgrades down the line, and then the cash machine is running. On the other hand, if you are one of these people who are interested in this Mark III release, Sony would also profit basically on the way they have marketed this Mark III and also the input they have put in. Because in my opinion, all the critics which I have seen, it's quite valid, but it's also, I believe, the why Sony have chosen the safe route to release this Mark II, because I believe that this, they did believe that these kinds of cameras would sell good, so they put in just minimal effort for this Mark III release. That's my interpretation because of the lens choice. They basically recycled the lens from the Mark II. They used all the internals, what they already have, the battery, the AI chip, the sensor. That's everything which does not need any kind of research. And that's stuff they already have. The only thing which they had to redesign is basically the body to fit in the bigger battery. And to do that, I think they would sacrifice the tilt screen. That might be also a cost-saving topic. But in all, I believe that the research and the effort they put in was relatively small. And by taking that high price on that camera, they profit again twice. First of all, if people don't buy the camera, they might look into the more traditional lineup from Sony, so that's fine. Or if people do buy it, the margin, I'm just guessing, but I believe that the margin will be that high that it will make profit for Sony. So that's win-win for Sony. On the other hand, all the people who were nagging about a Mark III release, Sony can now say, hey, here we have the Mark III. If you like it, you like it. If not, not. That's fine. And based on the upcoming sales numbers, I believe that now Sony has, with relatively minimum effort, again, just my speculations and just my opinion, that now they can lean back and check the sales numbers. If the sales numbers are looking fine, they will reconsider the RX lineup for a Mark IV perhaps. And if the sales numbers are not looking good, that's proof for them just to shut the RX lineup down and saying, okay, we tried it again, it's not profitable, we will focus on our G Master lenses and the upcoming cameras. All right, that's a big rant on this Sony RX1R Mark III release. I'm quite curious what your opinion about this. I said that I might consider this camera, and to be honest, I'm considering it perhaps in 1 year, because I want to see first all the previews, but I also believe that this camera might go on the second-hand market relatively soon, because people have different expectations regarding this camera. That was the same for the Q3, but also for the GFX 100 RF. Every time when a fixed lens camera release comes out, there's kind of some hype, and then the wrong people buy the wrong cameras, and after that they come onto the second market with the cheaper price tag, and that's basically when I will look into this Mark III release. For now, I think I will also lean back like you guys by just checking the upcoming previews. I'm quite curious regarding the autofocus performance, but based on some current information, I believe that it sounds like that it's good enough. I assume it's not like, yeah, the current Sony lineup lenses, but we will see. And yeah, share me your opinion about this RX1R Mark III release. What do you think about the release in general? Do you consider that? Share your comments below in the description. Yeah, that was quite a rant on this topic, but yeah, that was just something I was thinking about this camera after seeing all the critics and so on. And yeah, I am on the same page from the consumer point, but if I'm running a company, these are the thoughts I would have, and I think I would do the same in Sony part. But again, these are just my speculations and my interpretations, and therefore I do understand the disappointing points of this release. That being said, if you're still watching until this point, thank you very much for your time. I'm running out of light. Thank you very much for your time watching. You are the one who deserves a like for that. If you want to support my small little channel, just check the links below in the description. And if you're curious why I got the System OM3 camera, just click on this video. Or if you want to check out my Nikon ZF bag, just click on this one. See you there and have a nice day.